Everyone, welcome to Computer Science E1. This is lecture 6, all about security. And so we're going to start off today with a quick question. So how many of you have either sold or given away one of your computers in the past? Only 2 of you? Okay, so a fair number of you. And so for those of you that have done it, how many of you have formatted or erased your hard drive when you gave it away? Okay, so here's an even further question. So for those of you that formatted and erased your hard drive, how many of you went so far as to actually destroy the hard drive? Okay, good. So that's actually sort of the first point in all of this, and that if you want to give away your computer, pass it on to somebody else, the only real safe way of destroying all of the data that's contained within it is to actually destroy the hard drive as well. And I do mean in addition to physically destroying the hard drive, which actually can be a really fun endeavor. It can actually just be really stress relieving to pull a hard drive out, open it up, and take a hammer to its platters. They shatter in a very satisfying way, even though they're kind of mirror-like. And those of you that are somewhat superstitious might be a little wary in doing it. It's still, I think, a very fun exercise to do, though obviously it's not necessarily the cheapest or easiest thing to do. But for those of you that have given away a computer or sold a computer and have just taken the hard drive and perhaps done a format or an erase on it, as it's so-called, realize that the data could still be on that hard drive. Even though there's all these fancy warnings that say, warning, the contents of this hard drive will be erased, that is sort of a little bit of a white lie, because it's true in the sense that when you turn on the computer again, none of your data is going to be there, but it's false in the sense that it's not irrecoverable. You can actually go through, read the hard drive, and be able to recover a lot of the data that was previously on it. And so this has actually some pretty interesting implications. If you delete a file, for example, this implies that maybe the file isn't actually deleted, but something else has happened to it, and such that we can actually still recover the data from this file. So really the only safe way for us to destroy the data on a hard drive is to actually destroy the hard drive itself, or to write over the entire contents of the hard drive in order to pretty much erase everything. So how does file deletion actually work? Well, if we may have gone over this in the hardware lectures, but just as a quick review, all of the data on a hard drive is stored, as you know, on the platters of the drive itself. And it's a little bit different when we're talking about other storage devices like SSDs. It's not quite so circular. It's in fact just a bunch of memory chips held within its boundaries. But it's sort of the same idea even for that general purpose. So we have here just a platter that is meant to be a hard drive. And in this platter there are a whole bunch of concentric circles that write the data contained within your hard drive. And obviously these are more ovals than circles, but you get sort of the idea. And there is actually a table contained somewhere within this hard drive that your computer knows about, that in many, especially older computers, is called the file allocation table, or the FAT. And so this is used in particular by some older file systems, but the same idea, the same concept remains the same today. So we then have this table that basically describes to us a variety of files. Let's say that I have a file called, exam1.doc, for example, which is a Word doc containing the contents of exam1. Then in this file allocation table is a mapping of the name of this file to its actual location on the hard drive itself. And so this location is actually just some computer speak, and we really don't have to know or care what it actually is, but it's actually just some address representing perhaps some number or some address that is on the hard drive itself. So something like this, I don't know, something that looks like this, OX4C8EA. That's just a bunch of random letters and characters that might represent the address for this. So when this file is erased, the contents of its data are not actually erased. The data itself is not actually erased, but rather its reference within this file allocation table is erased, telling the computer that, okay, well now this location no longer has memory or no longer has data contained within it, so I am free to write another block of data over it. So I could have another file, for example, exam2.doc, that now overwrites that previous one. It may not, but it certainly could overwrite the previous block of data. So now that we have actually overwritten some data in that particular location, can we safely say that that file is indeed gone? So what this means is that the very first time that you drag a file from your computer into its recycle bin or to its trash can and empty it, that file is deleted, as we have seen before. But really all that means is that its reference is deleted rather than the data being deleted itself. So it is, in fact, entirely possible for somebody who has physical access to your hard drive to be able to read through all of the so-called sectors within your hard drive and try to figure out what contents, what files actually existed there, all the while ignoring this file allocation table. So if we were to format the drive, for example, or erase the drive, and it gives you this warning that, okay, all of the data on this drive is about to be erased. And you click yes, and you say that that's okay for you to do. All it's saying is that this file allocation table, and there's some other data as well, but it's not the actual data in the files themselves. This file allocation table is essentially just destroyed, and the rest of the data is in fact remaining on the platters of your hard drive. So this is actually sort of an interesting thing, because if you want to sell your computer or give it to somebody else and you want to preserve the privacy of your data, it's not sufficient to just delete the files. It's not sufficient to just format the hard drive, because a sophisticated person could actually go through and read that information. In fact, you don't even have to be that sophisticated. You can download some software that will try to recover files for you automatically, even though the file has been deleted at some previous point. Obviously, now there's some limitations to that. If the data at that address has actually been overwritten by some other data, then most likely you're not actually going to be able to recover the original file, exam1.doc, out of this, but you might be able to retrieve this new exam2.doc data that was there before.